The Spaniards' encroachment on the Mayan civilization. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. He had 3 ships and left from Spain. He sailed through sunshine, wind, and rain. He sailed by night, he sailed by day. He used the star to find his way. A compass failed, couldn't help him know how to find the way to go. 90 sailors were on board. Some men worked while others snored. Then the workers went to sleep and others watched the ocean deep. Day after day, they looked for land. They dreamed of trees and rocks and sand. October 12, their dream came true. You never saw a happier crew. Indians, Indians, Columbus cried. His heart was filled with joyful pride. Devastating portraits of the dead, diseases, misery, and apocalyptic destruction experienced by the Mayas. During the European conquest in the 16th century, Alonso Davila, Aguilar, and the Pachecos, who influenced conflict during the resistance struggle, as well as Lord Nanchacan of the Chetumal province, who led the Maya to counter-attack. As a way to curb resistance and rebellion of the Mayas, the encomienda system was established, whereby the Spaniard offered protection to the Mayas, and in return, the Mayas offered tributes, gifts, work, and also converting to Christianity. Spaniard exercised jurisdiction over the Mayan communities and exploited their resources, although they never intended to establish permanent settlement in Belize. Christopher Columbus, who was convinced that he had found a new route from Europe to Far East, he thought he finally reached India. Hence the name Indian, used to describe the Mayans. The Spaniards attempted to subjugate the Mayans. Some strategic motives were used to accomplish subjugation. The Spaniards used fear and gruesome and inhumane attacks and slaughter, murdering them, destroying their religious symbols and burning their native books. There were women too in that host, also with weapons, who danced and weaved in and among the fighting men, and priests who stood in front of all in long white robes, arms uplifted, praying to their God of victory. Fires they lit, torches they lit. It was terrible. Upon the Spaniards' arrival in Belize, they noticed that there were 3 distinct areas in Belize, namely the Chetumal province, the Tzulincob province, an area in the south from the Monkey River to the Sarstone River. Spaniard had the most contact with the Mayas of the Chetumal province and were engaged in coastal trade. Tzulincob consisted of Yucatec Mayas who often engaged in missionary activities with the Spaniards. In 1680, Spanish priests Fuencilida and Orbita were sent and tasked to check up on how the Mayas were adopting to the Christian religion. Even a system such as the encomienda system was set in place to create a balance to control. The Spanish colonialized primarily in the north and the Mayas in the south. This was called the dual frontier. The Spaniards were mean, cruel, and murderous towards the Mayas in their conquest in Belize during these frontiers, and this often had the Mayas going into exile at a stronghold community of Tipu. Tipu was the Mayan capital in the region at that time. Here the Mayans found refuge, and it was difficult for Spaniards to acquire control of the Mayas in Tipu. They gave very strong resistance, and it was even harder to convert them to Christianity, as their numbers were enormous, and they set up blockades on paths leading to Tipu. This war between Europeans and the Yucatec Mayas were called the Caste War. The Yucatec Mayas were also known as Chan or Mutul Maya. Tipu was the capital of Maya, as Tzolencob province was west of Tipu. The area south consists of Manchechol, who spoke Cholan, and the Spaniards had very little contact with them. All these three groups consisted the rule of the Spaniards. The relationship between these groups and the Spaniards were mostly cruel and bloody, as resistance to subjugation persisted upon, especially with Christianity. The Mayas saw Christianity filled with spirit and demons. Surely they adopted some of the Christian religion, not only to appear they were being obedient to the Spaniards, but they do so making ridiculous figurines or idols which were made in the form of animals and people relating to saints of the Christendom. At times, the Mayas would carry out ambushes and guerras attack on conquistadors like Alfonso Davila, who arrogantly demanded Lord Nanchakan of Chetumal province to send him gifts. This was common in rebellious Mayan communities. The Maya and Spanish culture had few differences. The Mayan culture, the women were key communicators to children and act as persuaders to their husbands. On the other hand, the Spanish or Europeans communities, the males were dominant and the females were prime sufferers. Eventually, both cultures later intermingled with the start of Gonzalo Guerrero, a Spanish shipwrecked mariner. Gonzalo ended up winning liked favor with Chetumal province Mayan leader named Nanchakan. Nanchakan gave his daughter Zazilha to marry Gonzalo, and they produced the first set of mestizo children. They had the first 3 mestizo children. This new ethnicity also led to the breakdown of the Maya and by way of reducing the Maya population. Then others began to follow the intermingling trend. Belize hosts one of the great Mesoamerican civilization of Maya ancient time. They created vibrant commercial centers, monumental religious temples, and exquisite artwork. They possess sophisticated knowledge about their earthly and cosmological environment, much of which they wrote down before succumbing to domestic decline and alien assault. Belizeans, we all have a story to tell about the role played by our relatives or ancestors in the creation of the nation we now proudly call home. O land of the free by the Carib Sea.